Sarah, welcome to Spark TV.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Very excited to share your story on the podcast today. Let's start out by telling everyone who you are and what you do.
So I'm Sarah Petty. I am the director of Olive Business Partners. It's a advisory firm that does virtual CFO services. So we provide support in anything finance related to small to mid-tier businesses.
Amazing. And I see you're wearing the olive blazer. Are you just totally like living the brand?
Yeah, I did go a bit on brand today. That's right.
I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So, talk to me more specifically about a virtual CFO. So,
Yeah.
in my mind, when I think finance for a business, I have my bookkeeper, I have my accountant, and then, a lot of times we think like, okay, you only have a CFO if you were a
Mm.
really big deal. So, talk to me about where a virtual CFO sits in that landscape.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of business owners are a bit in that mindset and not really sure whether they need a virtual CFO or not. Some have an accountant, some have an in-house finance team that might be a finance manager or a financial controller. And do they still need a virtual CFO? Some of them have nothing, and the business owner is managing it all. So it's a common question of at what point do I need a virtual CFO and what value can they bring? So with a virtual CFO, we are not necessarily doing your bookkeeping or the accounting or the tax advice. The bookkeepers and the tax advisors are specialists in that, and they're great at that. What a virtual CFO can do is really help you with strategic expertise. So a number of scenarios where you might hire a virtual CFO, some businesses start growing rapidly and get to a point that the support from their accountant just isn't quite enough. So they're doing their compliance and their bookkeeping and their tax returns, but they really want to understand where are they at, what's their financial position look like, and what do they need to do to get things under control because it's just all got a bit chaotic. The other scenario might be that you've grown your business to a certain point, but then you're not really sure how to unlock that next stage of growth. And so again, you've got everything sorted in the background in terms of you've got maybe some basic reports and you've got your compliance done, but what do I do next? And that's where a virtual CFO can really help you to dig into your financials and find the insights that can help you make those decisions to unlock the growth in your business. And probably the third scenario is if you've just got some real financial challenge and you need some expertise to get through that. So a very common one is when you're having problems with cash flow. So your business might be growing, you're getting new clients on board, it might be profitable, but you just really struggle to pay the bills, and cash in the bank can be really up and down, and you just struggle to work out what the problem is. So a virtual CFO will have expertise to come in and assess end to end your financial position and help you get on track to make sure that those sales are converting to cash in the bank.
I love it. So we did a survey of all of the Spark members at the start of the year just to kind of set the tone for the year and figure out where everyone was at. And one
Yep.
of the questions we asked was, what is one of your biggest challenges? And cash flow was the top answer.
100%. Like 80% of my conversations are about cash flow.
Yeah, it's just insane, isn't it? And I think
Yeah.
that it's not until you get into business
Yeah.
that you really see that. Like a lot of small business owners come into business as whatever their skill set is. So maybe they're a copywriter or a service provider or whatever. And so they have that creative skill set and they're kind of learning the finance side. And
Yeah.
I think even savvy people are like, well, as long as I'm making more money than I'm spending, surely I'll be okay. But it's just not the case when it comes to cash flow, is it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've seen the other scenario where a business has been operating for some time and always had cash in the bank, so it's not something they've even looked at. And then suddenly, one day, out of nowhere, a large client doesn't pay on time or they've had an unexpected expense and they haven't planned for that because they've
Mm.
just thought that they could rest on their laurels and it was all good. So it just becomes a real issue. And I think the other thing that some business owners don't quite understand is that even if you're getting sales through the door, it doesn't necessarily always convert to cash straight away. And there's a number of reasons for that. but you really need to have a good understanding of how to generate cash and where your spend is going in and out of your bank account. But also look at trying to forecast your cash flow, because if you can foresee some of those problems that are coming up, there are options and things that you can do about it. You're never in a position where it's just, I can't pay and that's it. There's always options. There's options if you're in the panic mode, to look at, and once you sort of get through that, there's also options to look at where you can set yourself up for longer term success and make sure you've got a forecast in place, make sure you've got a really good relationship with your bank. If you do need financing, there's a number of financing options. So there's always ways to mitigate the risk, but it's important to have a good understanding and some forecasting to see where the problems may come up.
Yeah, I really love that because, and it's interesting just hearing you talk about it as well. I feel like the value of the virtual CFO is that everyone's scenario is different.
Yes.
Like every business is different. People have different payment terms, different products and services, different margins. So actually having someone look at your specific use case, and it just kind of makes me think, I know there's so many courses and things out there that as business owners we try and upskill, but actually having an expert look at your use case, your scenario, your numbers is so valuable.
Yeah, that's right. And I really do tailor the solution to the business. So to start with, when working with a new client, I'll get to know their business, their industry, their financials, and it's different whether you're a product-based business or a service-based business. If you've got a product that's a quick turnaround, or maybe you've got a product that's a big investment for someone. So, all those different things get taken into consideration to make sure you've got a plan in place that works for your business. Because it just can be quite different. And a lot of business owners are quite financially savvy. They do have a basic area, basic knowledge in finance. But, I've spent 20 years training as an accountant, as a finance manager, and up into a CFO position that, I've got this expertise that I can sort things out quite quickly. It'd be like me trying to, I don't know, be a legal advisor. I know the basics of, but I'm definitely not going to pick up things that an expert would know. So yeah, it's not to say that they don't have any knowledge, but you can always get things done quicker. And a virtual CFO will see things that maybe you've just overlooked, because also business owners wear so many hats, right? Like they're trying to do
Yes.
often a lot of things in their business and just don't have time for that focus.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I love like even so, so the cash flow is probably one of the times where people are feeling that panic, feeling that, oh my God, what am I do? That's kind of almost the negative end of the spectrum.
Yep.
But on the positive side, just makes me think of, I was chatting to a girlfriend who works in her partner's business, and she's like, I just don't know how to make decisions. She's like, all I do is I look at the numbers and I'm like, I guess we're making money. But she's like, then I don't know what I'm allowed to do or what is possible, or,
Yep.
what steps should I take to hit this goal that we have. So
Yep.
I love that about your role as well inside
Yep.
someone's business is, okay, what's the vision? What are we doing here? What are we aiming for? And how do we take financial steps or make decisions to achieve that?
Yeah. And my role is to provide those recommendations to the business owner or CEO. So I'm not going to tell you exactly what you should and shouldn't do with your business. Obviously, it's your business and you can make that decision. But what I can do is give you, here's the 2 or 3 options that you have, and here's the risk, and here's the return. And then it's up to you it's up to you to be able to make that decision, and it's an informed decision rather
Yes.
than just a gut feel, or I'm not really sure, so I won't make any decision, because indecision is a decision as
Oh
well.
my God.
So
Yes, I learned that the hard way. I keep learning that.
yeah, so yeah, a virtual CFO can kind of scale it down for you into the 2 or 3 things that might make sense for your business.
I love it. This is awesome. So then how did you actually get into this?
Yeah, so I've had a career as a finance professional for nearly 20 years. I've just worked my way up through mainly in corporates and in the consumer and retail space majority of the time. So I've had quite a broad career across different finance roles, from financial controller to planning, analysis, all kinds of things, commercial finance, strategic projects, and worked my way up into a CFO role. And my last role before starting this business, I was CFO of a private business.
Oh.
And what I really like about finance is it people might think you're just the number cruncher in the background, but actually to be a good finance professional, you need to build relationships. You need to be able to communicate and tell the story from the numbers. And finance, whether you like it or not, is the language of business. And, we're all here to make money. And even, I've worked with not-for-profits, and even though they're not looking to make a profit, they need to make sure they've got funding so that they can have a bigger impact in whatever cause that they're representing. So it always comes back to needing to understand your financials. And if you understand the financials, you've got data to make a decision. So it takes the emotion out of it, and you can make a decision that makes sense. So that's what I really like about being in finance and that partnering type role. And so as I was going through my career, I always thought about, maybe starting something of my own. And I started talking to business owners who were, exactly talking about these problems we've just been saying about managing their cash flow, or not being able to make financial decisions, or just not having the time to really dedicate to financial planning or understanding their financial position. So it felt like there was a real need out there, and particularly in that sort of small to mid-tier business. So yes, you're a large business, often you'll hire a full-time CFO who's managing all of this for you. But for a smaller business, it can be hard to access that level of expertise. You don't necessarily want to have a full-time CFO. Either you can't afford it, it's not really necessary, and you just want some advice on some key things in your business. So this way it allows, those smaller businesses to access that level of expertise much earlier in their growth journey. So I felt like there was a real need out there. I've always had, a bit of a creative mind, and again, sounds weird as an accountant to be creative, and I'm not creative when it comes to accounting. Just to be
Damn
clear,
it.
high level of integrity, don't worry. But I've done things like started blogs and been on podcasts, and I've had a whole range of different hobbies on the side, and I've done volunteering, and I just always like to have something else on the go, and creating new things and working with different people. And so this was a way to really bring everything together, right? So I can use my creativity in building the business, but also being able to utilize my expertise for business owners. So yeah, a few months ago, decided to make the jump. This isn't really something that you can build on the side, to be able to dedicate the time to the businesses and really learn about them, their financials, and provide the right level of support and value. I had to kind of make the decision to either go all in, or put it to the side. And I'm just the kind of person that doesn't want to sit back and in 10 years' time and think, what if, and have all the regrets. So I decided to give it a go, and yeah, I've had quite a bit of interest in the business, which is great.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's exciting, right? Because you're right. The way you described, having all of those outside interests, being super creative, being a bit of a go-getter, wanting to do all the things all the time. That's like tick, tick, tick for starting your own
Yeah.
business. What do you think's been the biggest challenge that maybe you didn't foresee when you started the business, or when you thought about taking the leap?
Yeah. So everyone told me when starting your own business, you have to wear all the hats in the business. And I was like, yeah. I've worked with all these different functions in the past. I'll be fine. I'll work it out. But I think until you get into it, there's actually a lot more to some of these roles than you think. And as a startup, I had to really focus in on sales and marketing, right? Because without clients and without revenue coming in, I'm not going to have much of a business for long. So that was a real skill set that I had to learn. And I think while I thought I knew the basics of how to go about it, and I had asked for advice beforehand and talked to colleagues and that kind of thing, my learning was that you had to be really quite strategic. And it's important for me that I'm really authentic in what I do and how I come across. And you can sometimes get this icky feeling about sales of like, oh, you have to put on this really used car salesman kind of approach, but you really don't.
Mm.
I mean, your course, Danielle, really helped me with some of that
Oh,
thinking as well.
awesome.
But yeah, my learning and talking to others who are sales professionals is it has to be strategic and you can do it in your own way.
Mm.
And I am a more introverted personality. I'm not, an extrovert. I'm not naturally a great small talker and schmoozer, but you don't have to be, is what I found. As long as I can be strategic about it and I'm coming across authentically and I'm really selling a service that can help people. It's not selling something that I don't believe in. I actually really believe in this, and I really believe that I can make a difference in these with these business owners. So that's helped. But yeah, been a big learning in how to go about the sales and marketing side of it.
Yeah. Oh my God. I absolutely love that you said that. So I had a person book time in my diary to ask about my sales coaching yesterday.
Yeah,
And look, it happened to be a male, and I was like, this is odd. But anyway, considering how Spark's so female led, but that's I don't whatever with this with the one-on-one sales coaching, I don't mind so much.
yeah,
But they were like, I want you to teach me how to be a closer. I want you to teach me how. And I was like, I don't think I'm the right person for you. I was just like, this is insane. I was like, no, my whole philosophy is relationships,
yeah,
being interested in what people are doing and believing in what you sell. And if it doesn't work out, just talk to another person, like it's just, it was so, I was literally sitting there going, wow, this is literally the reverse of what I teach everybody. So I
yeah,
love that you said that. You are spot on. If you show up authentically, and you do come from a position of service. And I really believe in what I do and I can add value and I really can actually, transform your business or your way of thinking.
yeah.
That's the magic with sales, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I had a few people recommended different sales books to read as I was getting my head across it. And one in particular, I started reading it, and it was just about, how to crush your competition, and like the language was so aggressive. I almost felt like
Ugh.
growth just reading the book. I had to put it down, but there's a lot of other material out there that doesn't talk like that. And as you say, it's more about building the relationships. Um, and a lot of my clients are coming through people in my network,
Mm.
and sometimes it's someone knows someone who knows someone who knows someone. But it's because of all of those relationships that it works and the trust is built up. So yeah, I mean, I just feel like in anything, in any job that you're doing, if you're coming across as authentic and you really believe in what you're doing, that's the way to go about it. I don't think you need to create any fake persona of some aggressive sales closer. That'll probably just
Oh,
drive people away.
totally. And I just feel like how weird would it be to because he was talking about, because if you learn sales from a book, there are like techniques, like different
Yep,
closing techniques and different things
yep,
to say. And he was like listing off all the names for these techniques. And I was like, no, don't do that at all. Like that's why it's not working what it is you're doing. So I do love that because I really do believe and I think women are a lot better at this, at actually tapping into our authenticity and
yep.
I think sometimes we swing too far in the direction of I don't want to sell and I don't want to talk about anything. But I feel like if you find that middle ground, that is what I am doing is of great value. If I don't tell people about it, I'm actually doing them a disservice.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
It just reminds me of this story of so when I was, I don't know, about 18 and studying at uni, I used to work in a clothing store, in a retail store, and they gave us sales training, which was like this very American, 7-step approach to training. And when a customer came into a store, you had to schmooze, like that was the word that they actually used. You had to schmooze them, you had to talk to them. And so many times when I went and tried that, because it's not my thing to just like keep asking questions. And when you get that really annoying salesperson in the store
Yes.
who just is on your back and you're like, please just leave me alone. It would drive them out the store. It just didn't
Yeah.
work because
Yeah.
it just wasn't me. Yeah, it's anyway,
Oh,
I've
no, it's
learned a lot since
literally
then.
no, totally. But it's so funny. It's literally, so I use the example like of bad selling as the used car salesman, because we all have that idea
Yeah.
in mind, but also that retail shop girl who's following you
Yeah.
And you're like, I just need to leave this store right now. I'm
Yeah.
like, whoever's teaching these people these things, seriously, what the heck? Oh my
Yeah.
God, that is hilarious. I love it so much. So if someone is in their small business right now and they're kind of feeling funky about their finances, do you think that there's like a catalyst for bringing in a virtual CFO, or do you think it's always just start the conversation and see if it's right for them?
I would start the conversation. I mean, if you're having any doubts, absolutely reach out.
Mm,
Look, sometimes your accountant can provide you a bit of advice that will be enough to get by, and that's fine too. But if you're really not sure, I mean, reach out, because there's no harm in having that initial discussion. If you find it's not for you, and the service isn't quite right, then that's totally fine. But I think you would rather want to know and see
yeah.
what's available and what support is out there. Because I get asked the question a lot of, well, do you really need a virtual CFO, or can I just get by until the point when my business is big enough to hire that full-time CFO? And the only thing I'd say to that is, well, there's not many businesses that have actually been successful in scaling up
Mhm.
without having a CFO to support them through that. And so if you can
Yes.
get that help earlier in your business journey, you can make decisions, and you've got that expertise there that you don't have to learn the hard way. You can actually get someone to give you that advice and help you earlier on. So yeah, if you're thinking about it, if you're worried about something, if you're just not really sure where your finances are at, reach out and get some peace of mind. And it might be that you're okay and you can get by for a little while, and then reconnect at a later date. But I think you'd always rather know.
Yeah, and it's so interesting that you say that. I often hear people say, when I get to X, I will do these things. And I was like, well, maybe you'll never get to X because you're not doing those things.
Yeah,
Mm.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, I probably felt the same as I was starting out my business, right? Like, and especially when you're a startup and you don't have much money to
Yeah.
start with and you've bootstrapped it. So, I kept thinking like, oh, maybe I can get by with trying to write up a legal contract, or, not getting some support on my marketing message. But honestly, I think paying for those two things just
Yes.
helped me to hit the ground running. Otherwise, I'd be spending weeks just going back and forward and, not really getting anywhere. As you say, it's sort of, you can't necessarily get to that level unless you're getting the support. So yeah, I thought it was worth investing in those experts up front.
Yeah, I love it. I think that sometimes we need to reframe expenses versus investments, and just
Yeah,
kind of think about what we're actually going to gain from the experience.
yeah, yeah.
I love it. You are amazing, Sarah. I always love to wrap these podcasts with one last piece of advice. So, reflecting on your time in business or even your career beforehand, what would be one piece of advice that you would give to other women in business on their journey?
Well, probably on theme to what we've been talking about, but my one piece of advice would be not to let other people define you or your business. So as I was starting out, I got so much opinions, advice from people saying, this idea may not work, or there's so many businesses fail. I hope you're ready not to have any life anymore. All kinds of things. I mean, I got some great advice too. But I think the main thing was that I believed in the idea and I believed in myself. And I think that clients want to work with business owners who believe in themselves, the same
Yeah.
way that employees want to work with leaders that believe in themselves. So, yes, listen and take some advice, and you do need some advice to get better and all of that, of course. But if someone's putting down your idea and you're really believing in it, don't let that define you or change your path. Stick to what you really believe in. And I think if you're fully behind it, then your clients will be too.
Oh my God. I love that so much. Seriously, the unsolicited advice that comes out
Uh,
of the woodwork. I did hear a really great thing from someone once that, that even when people are being a bit down on things, they're doing it because they don't want you to fail. They don't want you to experience pain. They
yeah,
are actually coming from a good place. But I think the way it translates for anyone who's a bit of a go-getter is like, what? No, I can do it. This is a good
yeah.
idea. Like, get off my back, people.
Yeah. And it's also some people, you know, as you say, it's coming with good intentions, but they
Yeah.
don't actually realize all the planning and all the thinking and all the research you've done beforehand.
Yeah.
And they're hearing this idea for the first time.
Yes.
You know, you're in very different stages. So yes,
Uh,
listen,
and
but it's really up to
back
you.
yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah, totally. And that's funny. You just made me think as well, you know, people who haven't done it before. So
yeah,
people who are saying these things often haven't done what you want. So of course they'll be like, oh no, how could that work? When it's actually, well, actually, I'm just going to listen to the people who I know have done or walked the path
yeah.
that I would like to walk.
Isn't that the I'm going to totally get this wrong, but the Brene Brown quote around,
Oh,
um,
yes.
you know, don't listen to the people who haven't been there before. And I think it's in a Daring Greatly book, one of my
Yes,
favorites.
you're right. And it's
Yeah,
like, unless they're in the arena
yeah,
getting
something like
the
that.
crap kicked out
I
of
should have
them. Yes,
researched this before,
exactly.
but
Everyone read
anyway,
that book.
yeah.
Oh, I love it. You are the best. Thank you so much, Sarah, for
Thanks,
spending your time
Danielle.
with the Smart community today. So good. Love it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on.